In a recent video, I used analytics to rank every undefeated AP #1 college football team in history. The outcome caused a lot of debate, which got me thinking. I love data, I love analytics, I love looking at the stats, but there's really only one true way to determine if one team is better than the other, and that is if they actually play each other. I mean, how fun would it be if we could watch 2019 LSU and Joe Burrow go against 2001 Miami and Ed Reed? Or if we could see the 2004 USC Trojans, Reggie Bush, Lindell White, try to run the ball against 2018 Clemson and Dexter Lawrence. So my idea is this: create a 12-team college football tournament including all the great teams, or as many great teams as we can fit in a 12-team format that flows just like the college football tournament that we have today. So I put together a bracket, and then the next step was which teams should be invited. So unlike my data-driven approach to selecting the teams in the first video, I decided we'd go with opinion in this video. I really wanted to tap into the great college football minds such as Kirk Herbstreit, Nick Saban, I even thought maybe Stephen A. Smith, but in the end, I was going to take the opinion of someone that has forgotten more about college football waking up this morning than you or I have probably ever known, and that is the great Joel Klatt. Now, with Joel, I actually had access to his top 10 teams of all time, so that's our starting point, and that's really why he was selected. In a 2023 video, which I'll have linked in the description, Joel shared his top 10 teams of all time. So for the first 10 teams in this tournament, I'm going to rank them just as Joel did, 1 through 10. And speaking of Joel Klatt, Joel, if you happen to be watching, I would really appreciate subscribe to the channel, drop me a like. Now, that leaves us with 2 teams that I have to select somehow. So I mentioned going with the opinionated approach, but I am the data guy, so for this I did look at the data. So what I did was I went through the top 10 teams over the last 30 years in simple rating system. I compiled those 300 teams into one list, ranked them, and that's how I got the final 2 spots. So if you're interested, I'm just in the process of building my website, definitive.com. If you want to take a look at the entire list of 300 teams and sort by the different data sets, go ahead and stop by. So after compiling all that data for 300 teams, I sorted by SRS, starting with the top team, which was 2020 Alabama. Now, they were already in Joel's list, so I went down to number 2. And according to SRS, I was a little bit surprised. The number 2 team over the last 30 years was the other team from 2019, which was the Ohio State Buckeyes. So with them being ranked so high, they got the 11th spot in the tournament. So from there, the teams were pretty much all in Joel's list until I got to number 8. That was 2022 Georgia. However, since Joel's list included 2021 Georgia, I bypassed 2022 Georgia, which took me to the number 9 team in SRS. They weren't in Joel's list. They got the final spot in the tournament, and that was the 16-0 2025 national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. So now with the 12 teams set in stone, I'll unveil the entire bracket right now. As mentioned, we'll kick things off with the first 2 teams. The number 12 seed goes to the 2025 Indiana Hoosiers. The 11th seed is the 2019 Ohio State Buckeyes. Now jumping into Joel Klatt's top 10 of all time. At number 10, we have the 2000 Oklahoma Sooners. Next up, the number 9 seed goes to the 2013 Florida State Seminoles. Joel's selection for the 8th greatest team of all time, the 2008 Florida Gators. The number 7 seed goes to the 2021 Georgia Bulldogs. Coming in at number 6, the 2018 Clemson Tigers. And rounding out the first round of our tournament, at number 5, 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide. Now I'll unveil Joel Klatt's top 4 of all time. All of these teams get a round 1 bye, and we'll kick things off with the number 4 team, the 2019 LSU Tigers. In Joel Klatt's opinion, the 3rd greatest team of all time, the 2004 USC Trojans. In the number 2 spot, Joel gives that to the 2005 Texas Longhorns, and that can only leave one. The 2001 Miami Redhawks get the number 1 seed, led by Ben Roethlisberger. And okay, we're just joking. I like the data, I like the numbers, but I do like to have a little bit of fun. Before you start commenting, the other 2001 Miami gets the number 1 spot, his greatest college football team of all time, and I'm sure there are many of you that agree with this as well, the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. All right, so we hop on over to whatifsports.com. I'm going to click on simulations here at the top, and then we're going to go historic sim matchup. And then as you see, they have a bunch of different sports that you can choose from. We are going to, of course, click on college football. And this is what our main dashboard looks like. We can pick the away team and the home team. So the higher seed in all of these matchups will get the home team for what it's worth, meaning every game is going to take place on a neutral field. So I don't know really what kind of advantage the home team will get. But anyway, that is the rule that I'm following. So for example, let's go ahead and take our Miami Redhawks that we mentioned just a bit ago. And there we are. And we'll go back to 2001. Now, while I am showing the list of available years, you'll see that it ends with 1996. That is why the 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers are not in this list, because they were not in Joel's list, but in terms of the 11th seed, I would have given that to 95 Nebraska, but the simulation's not allowing me to do so. So I just wanted to make that clear. That's why they are not in the tournament. So we'll go 2001 Miami. Once you set the team, you see here we have Ben Roethlisberger, Steve Little, Jason Branch, etc. Now we're going to go to, of course, one of my favorite teams, the Cincinnati Bearcats. And we'll go back to 2021 in their dominant defense. So in terms of offense, we see that it's Desmond Ridder, Jerome Ford, etc. We're going to do here, we'll select neutral field. Again, this will be every game. We'll hit play game. I'm going to leave these the same. We'll have no precipitation, nice 70-degree weather, and no wind. And as you see, once you play the game, we have the score here at the top. Oddly enough, the Bearcats barely squeaked by Miami. Looks like Ben Roethlisberger might have gone crazy in the fourth quarter. You get a little quarter-by-quarter breakdown. I'm not going to include all of this in the video because, again, it would take up way too much time. I'm really just focused on final score.
It's all about the sauce.
Anybody can win one game. As you saw there, the Miami Redhawks, which, were a fine team that year. I don't think they really matched up to the UC Bearcats of that season, but they almost won the game. So to ensure we're getting the best outcome possible, I'm going to simulate every matchup in 10 games. Now, at the end of those 10 games, if the winning score is 5-5, then I will hold one sudden death game for the winner. And to keep this video as tight and flowing as I possibly can, I'm just going to share the outcomes of each bracket. All right, so we're going to kick things off with our 5-12 matchup, the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide taking on 2025 Indiana Hoosiers. Now, one thing, too, that I did gloss over, and I'm going to jump back to the simulation here, at least a screenshot. Each team, you can set the offense in terms of, are they a balanced offense? Do they favor the run? Do they favor the pass? Are they heavy run? Are they heavy pass? So I went through the statistics of every team, and I looked at how many run plays they had per game versus how many pass plays. And that's how I determined whether or not I would go with a balanced offense versus a favor run or a favor pass. And our first matchup goes to Alabama. They won 9-1. They outscored Indiana by an average of 22.3 points per game. That is absolute domination. I can just tell you right out of the gate, Alabama is going to be a problem. Our next matchup pits 2021 Georgia against the 2000 Oklahoma Sooners. Georgia takes this series 9-1 with a dominant defense, allowing Oklahoma to score an average of only 18.4 points per game. Yeah, that really gets me thinking. Maybe that Bearcat team should have been the 12 seed. All right, next up we have our 9-8 matchup between 2013 Florida State Seminoles and the 2008 Florida Gators. Jameis Winston versus Tim Tebow. This matchup may be a little bit closer, but the Florida Gators took this one 7-3. But oddly enough, even though Florida won the series 7-3, Florida State outscored them by an average of 28.2 to 28. So in the games Florida State did win, it was absolute domination, but in the end, wins and losses are what matters. Our next matchup is our 11 seed, the 2019 Ohio State Buckeyes against number 6, the 2018 Clemson Tigers. Both teams running a balanced offense, and in the end, Clemson won this series 8-2, averaging 35.8 points per game. All right, we are going to kick the second round off now with a big one. 2019 LSU Tigers, one of the most dominant offenses we've seen, versus the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide, who just decimated 2025 Indiana in the first round. And when I mentioned Alabama was going to be a problem, I did not foresee this. Alabama takes this series 9-1. The average score of the 10 games was Alabama scoring 43.8 points per game and LSU scored just 32.8. For our next matchup, we're going to jump to the bottom of the bracket, second round. 2005 Texas Longhorns against 2021 Georgia Bulldogs. This is the classic matchup between Vince Young and Stetson Bennett. We have 2021 Georgia's offense set as favor the run. We have 2005 Texas's offense as heavy run. They were the only team in this tournament that was heavy either way. But as good as that 2005 Texas team was, they couldn't stand up to 2021 Georgia. They lose the series 7-3. Now these were close matchups. In the end, Georgia won by an average score of 31-24. We move up just one spot in the bracket to see the 2018 Clemson Tigers taking on 2004 USC, which, funny enough, at the beginning of the video, this was one of the matchups that I teased. And here we go. We get to see it, this run game of USC, even though they do have a balanced offense, against this dominant D-line of the Clemson Tigers. And in the end, Reggie Bush, Lindale White, unfortunately, no match for that Clemson Tigers front. Clemson wins the series 8-2, but even though it was 8-2, these matchups were so close. Clemson won by an average of 4.1 points per game. Now we finally get to see the number one seed in action. Joel Klatt's number one team of all time, the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. For many of you, your choice is the greatest team of all time, taking on Tim Tebow, Urban Meyer, and that 2008 Florida Gators squad. Now we have both of these teams set as favor the run, and I'm going to give a little bit more detail here because this one was really fascinating. So the first two games went to 2001 Miami. The third matchup, Florida took. Then we went back to Miami for the fourth matchup. Games 5 and 6 went to the Florida Gators. Games 7 and 8 went back to Miami. So we were back and forth, back and forth. Game 9 went to the Florida Gators. So it came down to the final matchup, game number 10. If Florida wins this one, we go into sudden death. But if the Hurricanes win, they move on to the next round. And the Hurricanes did indeed win this final matchup, 30-25. And over the course of the series, Miami won by an average of 30.6 points per game to 25.7. I know it's more of a college basketball term, but I love it for this as well. We've got our Final Four. We've got the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. We've got 2021 Georgia taking on 2018 Clemson. One of these four teams is going to be crowned as the greatest team in college football history. All right, so we will start at the bottom. 2021 Georgia taking on the 2018 Clemson Tigers. And that Clemson Tigers team, they were loaded. Trevor Lawrence, T. Higgins, Trevor Etienne, Dexter Lawrence, as I mentioned. The list goes on and on. But in the end, there could only be one. Clemson takes this series 8-2. Again, a relatively narrow margin on average, 5.7 points per game. What a team 2018 Clemson was. And they have staked their claim, certainly to one of the greatest teams of all time. And they get a chance here in a minute to prove, are they the greatest college football team of all time? And now do we have a clash of champions here? The people's champions, I think. 2001 Miami Hurricanes taking on 2020 Alabama. We've got Larry Coker trying to outcoach Nick Saban. We've got Mac Jones trying to outduel Ken Dorsey. But in the end, 2020 Alabama keeps on rolling. They win the series 8-2 by an average score of 40.4 to 28.3. So this sets the stage. We have 10 games to crown the greatest college football team of all time, according to the simulation. The 2018 Clemson Tigers that came into this tournament as the number 6 seed, taking on the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide that came into the tournament with the number 5 seed. So I'm going to quickly give you the outcome of all 10 games because this was absolute dominance personified. I won't bore you with the final scores other to say Alabama won Game 1, Game 2, Game 3. You know what? Alabama won all 10 games. 2020 Alabama claims the title is the greatest college football team of all time. 10-0 by an average margin of nearly 20 points per game. They beat this Clemson squad. Really unbelievable. And because I'm big on the metrics, if you go to the definitive.com website, as I mentioned, you'll get this complete list. You can look at the different metrics. You can sort actually on the website. And in terms of that simple rating system score, Alabama is ranked as the number 1 team of all time. And maybe this is something to prove that SRS is a pretty good stat because here in the tournament, they take the crown and they do it in dominating fashion. Over 40 games they played in the tournament. They left with a record of 36-4. And I took all 40 games and I averaged out the scores. And in those 40 games, Alabama won by an average score of 27.8 to 16.2. So there you have it. We took a look at college football, looking at data. Now we took a look at the college football GOAT, looking at the simulation. What do you think? Did I leave any teams out? Do you think this really proves anything? Did you at least enjoy the video? Was it semi-entertaining? But whether you liked it or you didn't like it, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.
It's all about the sauce.